Welcome back, everybody, to Parental Composure. Today, we are here with a special guest. His name is Nate Mullens. He is a principal at Strive Prep Westwood. How are you doing today, Nate?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a busy day on campus here as we prepare for remote learning, but really great energy from staff, students, and teachers, and we're ready to go.
Awesome. That is very good to hear.
That is actually very good to hear, considering the circumstances, you know.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So what have you guys been doing today? What specifically have you been prepping for?
Yeah, it's been a marathon of a week, and it's only Tuesday. We've been engaging in Zoom professional developments for all of our teachers around how we are going to turnkey everything that we know into practice in the remote setting. We have some exceptional teachers who in the classroom, are really, really, really phenomenal in their own craft. But as we go into remote learning, there's just so much nuance around what that looks like virtually. So a lot of the professional developments have been around how we can take classroom management in person and what that looks like in a Zoom call with, 30 kids during live teaching. And then logistically from our end, we've been at school. Our assistant principal of operations has been stuffing packets of resources for kids, key vocab words that they need for all of quarter 1 and potentially quarter 2, hand sanitizer. All of our kids will get brand new backpacks. We've ordered new planners for them to keep them organized at school, and just multiplying all that times 350 for all of our kids. So
wow.
It's been a marathon.
Wow. Yeah. I'm really impressed.
I really am
honestly.
too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that is great news. And honestly, your energy is just so positive and uplifting, and it's a good feeling, because I think with everything going on and the questions that parents have right now, it's nice to know that on your end, things seem to be going pretty well, pretty smooth.
Yeah, because I can't lie to you, Nate, because me as being a parent with kids in schools, and, I'm not going to lie, I am a frustrated parent because, all the hoopla that's going on. But now that I see an actual principal and the energy that you have, it's reassuring. I assure you that. It's reassuring.
Mm-hmm, yes.
There's a lot of us that are
appreciate
nervous,
that.
So, yeah.
So
yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it all stems from the top and comes down to the bottom. And we've been really fortunate to have a network who's been very clear and transparent and also very positive. And so if we're able to tear down that positivity to our students, then that's a big win. So
it's awesome to hear.
Absolutely. That is huge. So basically, I just wanted to get started with questions regarding, virtual, hybrid, and in-person classes, and how you feel that's going to be going for your school this year.
Yep. So currently we are launching a virtual school year up until October 8th. And then we're going to reassess the numbers using science to determine whether we feel like it's safe to bring kids back into a hybrid model, in which kids will be following a block schedule. Very similar to the schedule they're going to be following remotely. So it's an easy transition into the hybridized model. And then hopefully staying optimistic that a vaccine comes out in the spring semester and we're able to come back full person. So that's kind of our plan right now, our trajectory. I mean, my wife teaches in Douglas County and they're starting hybridized. School districts across Colorado are approaching this and tackling it in very different ways, but feel very confident in our charter network's path and future for remote learning.
Great. So do you feel like compared to, so I know there were concerns by parents just with the whole, pandemic thing and then having to go into virtual classrooms. Do you feel like things are better prepared for this school year rather than what they were last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we look at what the spring was from March to May, we were in crisis management control. I mean, we were it was unprecedented territory. I mean, it'd be one thing if we're like, oh, let's take what Sweden's doing, or let's take what China's doing, or let's take what the state of Georgia's doing. But everybody had to learn very, very quickly. And with that were just a ton of errors in the process. So we've worked countless hours throughout the summer to really make sure that we have our ducks in a row, and making sure that our kids are feeling supported, our parents are feeling supported as we approach remote learning. And with that, blanketing on a layer of safety with all of this as well, both physical safety of our kids as well as the mental health of our kids as well. We all handle crises in different ways and want to make sure everything that we're doing we attack with a lens of safety and security for all of our kids and families as well.
Absolutely. So do you feel like your teachers, I mean, obviously it seems like you guys have been given great resources. I don't know if that's the same for all districts, but do you feel like your teachers have been given the resources they need to succeed with their students?
Yeah. My answer may be very different than what a teacher would say, but I mean, I think we're trying our best. I mean, just because of the economy, we faced severe budget cuts. It's looking like $10 billion for the state of Colorado, and how that's affected us and the resources that we can provide teachers, honestly has been really, really challenging. But I think the best thing we can provide our teachers is development and training around how to feel successful in the classroom and how to make sure that our kids are getting, a world-class education, even if it's behind a computer screen. And I think if teachers are feeling good about the work that they're doing, then that also tears up to their own mental health and their own happiness, and own fulfillment around what they are doing day in and day out and the impact that they're having on our kids in the Westwood community. So it's the most sustainable thing we can give our teachers isn't necessarily a raise right now or tons of resources, physical resources, that they can have at home, but more so, how are we developing our teachers so they feel successful day in and day out?
Absolutely. Do you have any main questions that you've been asked by parents? I mean, I know I have questions, we have questions as parents ourselves, but are there any main questions that any parents in your district have asked you that you'd like to share?
Yep, absolutely. We work in the Westwood community, which is in Southwest Denver, and we serve, I believe it's around 91% free and reduced lunch for kids. So a lot of our kids come from families where both parents are working full time. And so a lot of the questions that we've been getting are around, what does it look like when my kid's at home by themselves and they don't necessarily have this accountability or the supports that they need in order to be successful in online learning. And so obviously we can't show up at their houses and, say, no, you make sure you're doing your homework, make sure, you're paying attention, wake up, you're in school. All these things we're really having to get innovative around what that looks like. And so when we're talking to parents about the supports we're going to provide, I think it's just simplicity and making sure that we are eliminating as many bells and whistles as possible and just keeping this simplistic consistency in everything that we do, so it becomes routinized in the kids' routine and in their day-to-day instruction. And I think that's how we're approaching it. We have advisory time for the first 10 minutes, in which kids will show up to a live advisory class. And those 10 minutes are focused on community building and one-on-one meetings through breakout rooms and Zoom that teachers can have with kids to make sure that they feel supported. And also just being really aware through accountability trackers and systems. And so if we see that a kid, didn't show up to a Zoom call yesterday, we are calling that home and we are saying, hey, your child wasn't there, and really getting down to the root causes as to why they didn't show up instead of making it punitive.
Have you guys had any concern regarding kids the fact that they didn't get to learn in classroom and like they're, I can't think of the word right now, like where they are in terms of like, are they behind, and what you guys are doing to help them get back on track with their education?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question. We've been playing that game since day one. We're in a turnaround school right now, and the reason for the turnaround was because kids were falling further and further behind. I mean, we have some of our 8th graders who are at a 3rd grade reading level right now. And so this spring only accelerated and expanded that academic gap even further. And so we're sticking to our motto of, if we're focusing on world studies and ELA, you need to read more. We've increased the amount of books that they need to read, their exposure to fiction and nonfiction texts, and then staying aligned to this kind of simplistic, consistent model. And then if it's down to math, it's really making sure that we are going back down to the foundations and really focusing on quality versus quantity, to make sure that our kids are making up for that lost instruction in the spring, and working to continue to close those academic gaps that we see at our school.
Great. I think that's a great thing to hear, I mean, from parents, because I know that that's a huge concern for a lot of us, is just the levels that our kids are on and where they are now and how it's going to work out long term. So
and I think it's actually very phenomenal that you actually, you realize what this whole pandemic thing has done to the kids. And, it's very reassuring, because I am worried about my 10-year-old's, where she was at before all this happened and where she's at now. But, hopefully that other teachers and principals are just like you and notice that, okay, yeah, your grade level has dropped a little bit. So we're going to have to pick it up. And yeah,
yes,
it's good to hear.
Are there things that parents can do? I think that's another question that we have. There are, like you said, there are parents that work and their kids are home by themselves. There's also parents that are home with the kids. And so as, in all situations, what can parents do to help you guys, teachers, and to make this year successful for the kids?
Yeah, I mean, no school is successful without the partnership of the community, and community as in, the parents, and the students and other stakeholders. And so I think it's continuing to prioritize that partnership. And that starts with, understanding where our kids and parents come from. And that doesn't necessarily match the experiences of the teachers or even the administrators at our school. I went to Cherry Creek High School. I had a very privileged upbringing. And so I think it's recognizing the difference, recognizing the privilege. And then once you can recognize that, then forming conversations with parents around, what their lives look like and what they need. And then making sure that we are implementing the voices and, elevating the voices and ideas of parents. And having, continuous meetings with them to make sure we're serving our specific community, because our community looks very different than, a community in the 80113 school district. And so I think recognizing where we come from as a school and as a staff, having conversations with parents, viewing them as partners, and then working towards coming up with vertically aligned solutions.
Wonderful. I think the biggest, for me personally, I've been very concerned about my kids' mental state, and I know that we've talked about it here on our podcast. Are you guys doing anything to help that situation when kids are actually coming back to class or even being online? Yeah.
I'm so glad you asked that. That's what we really focused on with teachers today, was our new launch of SEL curriculum, which is social emotional learning. And so every Friday, kids will have 90 minutes of SEL instruction. And we just hired a new SEL specialist who, this is her degrees in social emotional learning for middle school kids. And so we've procured a curriculum. I'm blanking on the name now, but the curriculum really targets the emotional well-being of kids, and especially like coming into a middle school. I mean, kids' emotions are already heightened, and then having to deal with the inconsistency of remote learning and the pandemic that we're facing. We really want to make sure that we're prioritizing time to address the social emotional needs of every single one of our kids. And those needs look very, very different. So while we have a common curriculum that we're providing, we're also working with kids one-on-one based off of different tiered supports that they need to feel successful. So a typical tier 2 support would be, a check-in with our social worker or our counselor, and seeing what's going on at home. And then tier 3 systems, working with the community and outside programs to support our kids and provide them with the supports that they need that our school just can't offer them. So,
wow. I once again, I'm very impressed with everything that you guys are covering. I feel like this is definitely something that parents need to be having, is this interaction with yourself as a principal and teachers. I feel like it's what's kind of been missing in this whole process and this whole, experience, because I feel like teachers and parents have been a little bit disconnected in terms of how people are feeling. And I'm sure a lot of the teachers understand how parents are feeling, and a lot of parents also understand the pressures that teachers are feeling at this time. So thank you so much, Nate, for coming on. We really appreciate you spending the time with us. Is there anything that you want to leave our audience with today before we end?
Yeah, thank you to both of you so much for this opportunity. And I really want to stamp a point that you just made. I think these conversations need to coexist more frequently in our world. And I think what you're doing is just absolutely phenomenal. But I think one last piece of parents is, approach this with grace and be reflective about what's working and what's not working. And I think it comes down to this, like the teachers are like, well, I haven't heard from the parents, and the parents are like, well, I haven't heard from the teachers. So I think never be afraid to reach out to the teachers. And we got into this profession for a reason. We care about kids, we care about people. And we care about making a better world. And so never be afraid to reach out to the teacher or to the school. This is our job. This is what we love to do. And happy to have conversations at any point in time.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will tell you this, Nate, that if my kid went to your school, you definitely have put a lot of my pressure aside and all of my stress, just because, it sounds like, you have your school on, the P's and Q's that you guys are ready for it. I mean, that's completely what it sounds like. You guys are ready for it. And, us as parents, all we can do is just ask you guys, to do your best. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of parents out there are, asking for more than that, but, I greatly appreciate what you're doing and how you and your school have, handled the situation and your actual outlook on, what it's going to be like. But
yeah, it's very inspiring. I actually got chills a few times while you were talking. I don't know why, but I think it's
good.
just.
Well,
I think a lot of.
I don't know how ready we are, but. Yeah,
but your goal is there. Yeah, and it seems like you guys are doing everything you possibly can to prepare for something that nobody knows how to handle, really. I mean, it's a new thing. We've never gone through this before. So thank you for being so prepared and thinking of all the concerns and the questions that parents will have. So best of luck to you. And we could do another one here in a few months and
see how
and talk about things and how they turned out. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, my hair might be a little bit grayer, but
I can guarantee that.
That's okay. We won't judge you.
Yeah. Good. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
Bye.